This is being reborn as Sasuke in Konoha Part 6. Hope you guys like it. Chapter 26, V.1C.26 Teams 3. So, should we go for some food then? Sakura asked, having observed everyone else going into their groups and separating to get some food of their own. Hinata nodded her head, feeling peckish for some food. I guess that should be fine. Sasuke responded himself, and thankfully in this world the way chakra works is not somehow connected to food like how it is in the Dragon Ball universe, given the correlation between eating lots and being more powerful. Of course, for all intents and purposes that may just be some sort of gimmick, but I didn't discount that possibility. Sasuke thought. Where should we go then? Sakura asked after getting confirmation. How about some ramen? Sasuke suggested, wanting to take his time to check out the place he had invested some money in, and gaining some level of ownership over. I am okay with that. Sakura replied, while Hinata also nodded her head, not minding some ramen. Getting up, Sasuke started to walk off with Hinata and Sakura following after. When looking at team dynamics, Sasuke's current powers or capabilities put him at the same level of a Jonin already. His physical and mental abilities already at that level of power, where his genjutsu could easily already overpower people, and his ninjutsu also being so diverse and varied enough to trump most of all others. Still below the Hokage when it comes to that though. The current Hokage, while not in his prime, was actually still pretty powerful. Hiruzen Sarutobi isn't called the god of shinobi for nothing after all. When it comes to genjutsu, when Sasuke confronted Mitsuki, he managed to make him kill himself through the use of the Sharingan, specifically Kotomatsu Kami. After all, no simple suggestion through illusions would allow Sasuke to make someone kill themselves. No, Kotomatsu Kami had been used to enhance his genjutsu abilities. And just imagine if I also had that girl's, Yakumo Kurama's, bloodline limit to strengthen my capabilities. It was really scary if one thought about it, as his abilities then would be even more powerful in combination with Kotomatsu Kami. It may even be stronger than what the infinite Tsukuyomi could achieve in nature. I just hope to get the other eye from Attack Eye as well. I don't mind having Tsukuyomi in my left eye, but I would really want and prefer another Kotomatsu Kami, as it will increase the effects of the ability and I could use it more. Right now, Sasuke is itching to finally awaken his Rinnegan so he could start working towards practicing with a new set of abilities. Due to Sasuke's main Gekyo abilities remaining the same, Sasuke is assuming that even his Rinnegan abilities would stay the same as the originals as well. This is not even taking into account what having a second Rinnegan eye would provide. Faster, longer, wider teleportation and dimension hopping compared to the original sounds good. Sasuke is also an expert in the field of taijutsu as well, then there his sealing capabilities as well. If there is any training I am lacking in, then it would be to do with weapons in general. As Sasuke saw weapons as not an actual part of himself, he barely bothered to practice using them. The only weapons he did were the small ones, like senbon, kunai and such, given these can be easily concealed and used defensively if needed against actual weapons. I shall practice with some other weapons more, as it may come in handy once I get the Rinnegan and access to those paths. Sasuke's chakra network had been on the fritz ever since taking in the other half of the Kyuubi, leading to some chakra control problems. Which is a first considering his chakra control had been even when he had the first half of the Kyuubi sealed into himself. After a few days it had calmed down, and he was back to normal. But the experience and physical feelings I had to endure was not a pleasant experience. I wish not to have again, but there are all the other tailed beasts out there. Moving on from Sasuke, Hinata and her capabilities had changed. Especially since Sasuke had taken it upon himself to move her in a certain direction. If he had his way he would like her to also further along the line awaken the Tensogun, but Sasuke knows she doesn't have that capacity, unless he did some genetic and chakra conversion business. His own Chimera seal can only work for himself, but that doesn't mean other methods are not available. Hinata's current abilities had her being very powerful in the taijutsu area, possibly being able to defeat Chunin level people. Her ninjutsu was limited, which is a given due to her clan, which Sasuke helped her to expand, but it was still limited. Hinata's genjutsu was poor and it seemed like she talentless in this aspect. Not because she has bad chakra control, but she has really good chakra control, via the Bakugan. To be blunt, she just sucks at genjutsu, but at least she is able to resist the effects. Moving on from Hinata, Sakura is an even stranger person to pinpoint her capabilities. In comparison to Sasuke and Hinata, she seemed still useless, but Sasuke had already directed her down the path of learning medical ninjutsu. Even more so, he has directed her to get physically stronger as well, enhancing her taijutsu that she is able to match up against Hinata. When you get down to it, Sakura is a hard worker no matter what anyone says or thinks. Sakura didn't have the best chakra control, but she is on par with the current Hinata and Sasuke, which is a feat in on itself considering Sasuke and Hinata benefit from their bloodline limits. The new team of 3 arrived at the ramen place. Ishiraku Ramen. Is there some other reason you choose this place, Sasuke? It would seem Sakura was suspicious of something. What do you mean? Sasuke entered first and ordered. Hello old man, Taki. I would like some ramen, specifically spicy. Oh ho ho. Isn't it the young master? Taki, the shop manager replied. Please don't call me that. After all, Sasuke had basically helped Taki to expand his business, the shop becoming greater than what it was before. Sasuke has arrived. Taki went back into the kitchen to prepare the ramen, having gotten Sasuke's, Hinata's and Sakura's orders right after. Is a slender girl with long, dark brown hair and large black eyes, plus fair skin. She wears a white robe with the sleeves folded, a sort of dark blue apron with ribbon ties at the top and a bright white bandana. Sasuke. How nice of you to come. Had a pretty smile on her face as she approached the 3. And who is this Sasuke? Sakura asked Sasuke. Do you happen to like older women? Is that why you have all these beautiful older women around you? From that Izumi girl to now this Even Hinata started to look at Sasuke funny. Sasuke face palmed internally. Ha ha ha, ha, ha. Back in the classroom, everyone was starting to be introduced to their jonin teachers. Team 7. Iruka seemed to have this irritated look on his face. Your jonin teacher is Kakashi Hatake. Unfortunately he is not here right now, so you 3 will have to wait. Iruka continued even as Naruto exclaimed, and his other teammates seemed confused. Team 8. Your jonin teacher here is called Kuinai Yuhai. Kuinai is a fair-skinned woman of slender build. She has long black untamed hair reaching her upper back, and very unique eyes that are red in color, with an additional ring in them. She wears makeup consisting of red lipstick and purple eyeshadow. Her regular outfit consists of a red mesh armor blouse with only the right sleeve visible. Overall, this is very broad material which resembles bandages with a pattern on it similar to those of rose thorns. Her hands and upper thighs are also wrapped in bandages and she wears the Konoha forehead protector and regular shinobi sandals. Hello. Teammate will follow me. Kuinai said, thus leading to Kiba, Shino and Miko all followed after their sensei. This is the first time I am seeing her. Sasuke thought as Kuinai glanced towards Hinata with what looked like disappointment but happiness nonetheless. I am guessing that Kuinai probably wanted Hinata to be placed on her team. Team 9's teacher. Iruka continued. We are nearly finished then. Now on to Team 10. Your jonin teacher is Asuma Sarutabi. Asuma was a tall man, with brown eyes, olive skin, short black spiky hair, and a beard. His clothing consisted of the standard Konoha ninja uniform with the sleeves rolled up halfway, flak jacket, regular shinobi sandals and forehead protector. He also wore a sash that had the kanji for fire marked on it around his waist, a pair of black bangles, and bandages wrapped around the arms of his sleeves. Team 10 will follow after me. Asuma said in a similar manner to Kuinai, and his students followed after him. The Ino Shikacho combo. By Sasuke. I will see you soon. Ino came up and hugged Sasuke, to the dismay of himself and jealously of all the other girls in the classroom. Ino was the most comfortable being touchy-feely with Sasuke and had done this sort of action a lot of times. Yes. See you later. Sasuke patted her head and she blushed before following after her teacher and teammates. Before Ino left however, she poked out her tongue to the classroom, directing this action towards all the other girls. Last is Team 11. Iruka seemed to like that his day is coming to an end, sighing in relief. Right. Your teacher is Kushina Uzumaki. Iruka stated, shocking everyone remaining in the classroom, especially Naruto. Wait, what? Mom is going to be that bastard, Sasuke's teacher. It would seem Naruto disliked this idea. Quiet down, Naruto. The teams are formed accordingly with balance in mind. Iruka calmed the irritated Naruto down before continuing. As you can see, Miss Uzumaki is not here as of yet, so you will have to wait here with Team 7. With that, Iruka up and left the classroom, leaving behind some students that were shocked, none more so than Naruto. A few minutes later, Kushina walked through the door. A fair-skinned and slender woman of feminine build with violet eyes, and the common Uzumaki red hair. I am in a team full of women. Sasuke just realized this fact. I thought that they would have placed myself and the two girls with another male Jonin teacher, but it would seem that is not the case. Sasuke was thinking someone along the lines of Yamato, considering he has access to wood release, allowing him the ability to control the nine tails. I guess it also makes sense that Kushina would be the one to take the team I am in, especially since I am the only remaining Jinchuriki. Kushina would be among the only people with enough experience, knowledge and skills to control said beast. Mom. Why you are to be a teacher? Of course, Naruto was not so spoiled that he would disrespect his mother. He would never dare to, considering how scary Kushina is. Yes, Naruto. Don't worry, your Jonin teacher is someone that I trust. Kushina smiled at her child, before looking to her new students. Sasuke is a charmer, I see. Kushina assumed so due to seeing how the two girls in her team react to being around Sasuke. Body language is key. All right. Team 11. Follow me. Kushina said, directing the three, Sasuke, Hinata and Sakura to follow after her. Before Sasuke left, he looked towards Naruto and did a similar thing Ino did to the class when she left. He poked his tongue out, and then left, proceeding to laugh at the image of Naruto's angry face. Walking outside of the academy now, Sasuke couldn't help but ask. Aunt Kushina. That is Miss Kushina, to you. I am your teacher now, so I should have the afforded respect, no? Kushina stopped Sasuke before he could continue. He had grown used to addressing Kushina as such, considering the closeness of Kushina and Mikoto. Right. Aunt Kushina. Sasuke just ignored her, unafraid of any consequences. You decided to become a Jonin instructor. I did. Kushina ignored Sasuke's disrespect, knowing he had ignored her on purpose, having grown used to his tactics over the years. Little brat. Why? Sasuke had an idea of why, but hearing it from her would be better. There are reasons, that I am sure you can guess. Kushina looked at Sasuke's other teammates as she said this as a signal to Sasuke about the nature of his apprenticeship under her is based on something else. Okay. Sasuke nodded his head. Lady Kushina. You and Sasuke know each other. You are his aunt. Hinata and Sakura had questions, but it seemed like Hinata was the one to ask. Yes. Sasuke's mother and myself know each other. We are best friends. Kushina nodded her head before getting a devious idea. Now that I think about, I do happen to also have some pictures of Sasuke when he was a baby. Sasuke paused at first, before continuing to follow after the group of girls. Kushina was trying to tease him, while Sakura seemed excited to see such photos, and Hinata as well, but she was more reserved about it. Laughing, Kushina said. Okay. I can show you two some other time, but there is some other things of importance to do right now. Sakura and Hinata both nodded their heads fast, not minding some waiting time. Were Sasuke's thoughts. Creator's thoughts. Link_ID. For the harem, I have decided that this fic will have Sasuke paired up with girls around his age, so no Mikoto or Kushina, or anyone else like that. However, for the other fic with Obito, I plan to have things differently. Like it? Add to library. Have some idea about my story? Comment it and let me know. Comment. 25 comments. Vote. 1 left. Chapter 27, V.1C.27 First Mission I. Since the three of you are already acquainted with each other, I see no point in the first exercise. Kushina said. But, you will do it anyway. Introduce yourselves. Your likes, dislikes, your future dream, hobbies, things like that. Kushina nodded her head as she said this. Sasuke started first. Okay then. My name is Sasuke Uchiha, but I am pretty sure everyone here knows that. My likes are money, power and more money. Dislikes are having no money, having no power, and not living. My hobbies are too many, and my dream is something. Sasuke finished. Nodding her head, Kushina gestures for the next person to begin. Sakura goes second. Well, Lady Kushina. I am Sakura Hirano. My likes are. Sakura looked towards Sasuke before continuing. And medical ninjutsu. My dislikes include other girls. She was referring to other girls being close to Sasuke. My hobbies include spending time with friends. Again, she looked towards Sasuke, but her statement included more than just him. And finally, my dream is to. Sakura was pumping her fist into the air as she imagined what she dreamed of, given she had not really dreamed of anything else at this point. What she wanted hadn't even gone too far off from what she originally would have liked, but the changes had been significant enough to make Sakura better. Sighing, Kushina gestures towards Hinata so she may go. Oh okay. Hinata Hyuga. My likes are. In a similar manner, Hinata would glance towards Sasuke as she said this. My family, and freedom. My dislikes are restricting or harming others. My hobbies include. Again, Hinata poked her fingers together as she said this and looked towards Sasuke. And my dream is to free my clan from its curse. She whispered this last part with a serious expression. All right then. I guess that is everyone. Kushina had taken into account everything, knowing just where she stands with her team. I shall introduce myself then. I am Kushina Uzumaki. Your Jonin teacher, and my likes are ramen, my family and friends, and other things. My dislikes are bullies and being taken advantage of. My hobbies are training, and my dream used to be becoming the Hokage. She finished her introduction. Now that is over, let's get on with the test. Kushina continued. A test? Sakura asked. Yes. A test that I will use to get a grasp of your abilities. In doing so, it will make it easier for me to see where you guys suck. Kushina replied in kind with a smile on her face. So, the group headed towards one of the training grounds. The 11th training ground to be specific, where it was just a basic field upon which ninja could train their abilities at. Which reminds me, I should really go and start to learn the whole 8 gates opening technique. I want to experiment with that technique. Sasuke is someone that liked to take things and twist those very things to his advantage. Pushing things beyond what they would have been limited to before. Even the chimera seal Sasuke had created was only theorized at first, taking inspiration from the Karma seal of the Otsutsuki clan. It was only by remembering that seals could also affect one's biology, soul and genetics did Sasuke want to create such an overpowered seal of his own. Of course, the chimera seal has probably eliminated the possibility of me being able to use certain other seals. Like the Karma seal of the Otsutsuki. Sasuke thought to himself as the group arrived at the training ground. Let's begin. There was no explanation, and Kushina just went in for the kill, summoning multiple shadow clones of herself and attacking her students. Sakura, Hinata and Sasuke were split off from each other as they had to deal with multiple of their teacher. As subtle as always. Sasuke dodged as Kushina's shadow clone seemed intent in trying to land a blow on his face. At least don't go for the face. Sakura was dealing with her own Kushina clones, whom all seemed to be trying to use genjutsu on her. But she was trained and ready enough to know what an illusion was from reality, thus leading her to easily escape. So she does have some proper brains in that big head of hers. Kushina thought as she had observed Sakura seemed to not be ready for the ninja world. She was not examining their teamwork. Given the information for each person, Kushina knew that Sasuke, Hinata and Sakura would work well enough together with no problem. I guess they are lucky to be paired up in one team. Hinata had activated her Bakugan as she was popping shadow clones left, right, above and down, from all angles. Her taijutsu skills were being put to the test, but she was holding up well enough against Kushina. I must admit. I wasn't expecting the shy Hinata to be this confident in her skills. Hinata would not have acted like this otherwise, being aggressive rather than passive like the Hyuga's gentle fist usually was like. Kushina had not engaged any of the three herself and kept her distance as her overwhelming shadow clones took care of them. A test of endurance then. Kushina knew that Sasuke would last the longest, but he definitely shouldn't have more physical stamina than herself. Even in terms of chakra, Kushina should still have more than Sasuke, given she is an Uzumaki, had been a Jinchuriki before and has been training for a longer time as well. It would only be an hour later that Hinata and Sakura would be at the limits their physical stamina would take them. Physical conditioning only got them so far, with the two girls dropping one after another, their bodies and minds exhausted. Sasuke was still going however, and he hadn't even released his gravity seals yet. His physical conditioning enough to rival the ridiculous and harsh conditions of Might Guy and Rock Lee. I would say my gravity seals plus my training is even better than those two, who focus heavily on their lower body's strength. After all, Sasuke had made sure to analyze many training methods, deciding to they and train the entirely of his body. What kind of training does this brat do? Kushina's sweat dropped as she had to keep sending shadow clone after shadow clone. I will go in myself then. Kushina dispelled the clones, leaving herself to fight against Sasuke. I must admit, I can see the appeal those younger girls towards the brat. Sasuke held a certain level of charm. He looked older than being 12 years old, and had a height that at least reached the current Kushina's height. Sasuke's body was also very toned, but it wasn't so buff that he looked like a bodybuilder. Sweat trickled down Sasuke's face as Kushina said. Looks like you are the only one left. Care to entertain an old lady? You may be older, aunt, but your beauty is still prominent. Sasuke replied, which did manage to put a blush on Kushina's cheeks, but it would be mistaken for a blush due to the test. Sasuke's eyes had taken on the Sharingan's form, forming a beautiful red eye color for Kushina's view. A few years ago, Kushina would dislike even seeing the Sharingan due to the events of the Kyuubi attack. However, her thoughts right now were different. I don't remember the Sharingan being so beautiful. Kushina snapped out of it as she prepared herself. Bring it on, you know. The process of being accepted by Kushina was done, and their training had also officially started. Of course, Sasuke was holding back and only showing a level of ski that should match the intelligence networks of whoever's was trying to gain information on him. Which means Sasuke would be displaying around Chunin level abilities. Kushina had also started to help the three of them out, proceeding to give some answers to flaws and stuff like that. Team 11 had also started to do a lot of D-rank missions, which did earn them some money to spend, but Sasuke didn't need it, and really, neither did Hinata or Sakura need it as well. All three of them being relatively well off from their family's wealth, but that didn't mean other ninja who are not doing so well, or are wanting more money, don't like these missions. After all, while basic the pay is decent enough to just do D-rank missions for the rest of their career and earn enough money to live comfortably. Sasuke had been on the lookout daily for the whole bridge builder mission to start, meaning he was waiting for that one individual so that he may manipulate things into the direction he wanted. There were many options he could explore, especially since there are many things within that mission that he could take advantage of. An example being the town, whereupon Sasuke could set himself up to replace the tyrant within that town. I should be the better option, right? Sasuke thought to himself. Then there is Zabuza and Haku. Which is where I can place a Chimera transmitter mark on Haku and start the process of subsiding Haku's chakra as my own. Ice release would be a decent addition to my list of growing abilities. But it would also start to make Sasuke have a harder and harder time developing his abilities, having to split his training more and more. Of course, that is if I didn't have access to shadow clones. Sasuke, becoming more and more comfortable with keeping his Sharingan active, started to see more and more reason to keep it constantly active. So more often than not, Sasuke would leave his Sharingan active all of the time, leaving his mind to start to get used to such sight. After all, he will eventually always see the world differently via gaining the Rinnegan, so might as well start early and allow his mind and body to adjust to the time dilation. Sasuke had put a Chimera mark on Kushina during their fight, meaning he would access to the Uzumaki chakra, the special chakra that Kushina and Naruto share to become the Kyuubi's Jinchuriki and their absolute mad level of physical stamina and vitality. Increase my natural physical regeneration more. The only reason he hadn't put one on Naruto yet is because that would lead to Sasuke getting the Rinnegan before he is ready. The process takes time, with Sasuke receiving the transmitter's chakra, where his chakra has to subsume the properties of said being's chakra, taking in their properties. The next step is his body being transformed accordingly, which is a slow and painful process taking a few days as his cells slowly add on the necessary information to his genetic code. And if I want Hashirama's abilities to perfectly merge with my own, as if I was naturally born with them, I would have to take his chakra through a reanimated version of himself. That was the only flaw in his seal, that he needs a living person, that is marked for him to start copying their powers. It would be some time yet until Sasuke is able to get that. Wait! Sasuke exclaimed within as he spotted the old, drunk man he was waiting for. I believe his name is Tazuna. Sasuke all of a sudden coughed up some blood, as if he were attacked by some disrespecting junior's words. Wiping his mouth, Sasuke made sure to clean himself, as this was the result of changing oneself from the inside out. Slowly his body would adjust over the course of a week before getting better. Thankfully, with Uzumaki genetics, I should be able to increase the rate at which my body transforms. If Sasuke had used the imperfect Chimera seal before like he had done on Kiba, he would adopt some physical traits of the Uzumaki. That is why he had never done so, because the Uzumaki has unique features semi-specific to their clan. I may have gotten the red hair, which would certainly raise too many questions in comparison to my canine teeth being a little longer. Now with the perfect version of the Chimera seal, Sasuke doesn't have to worry about suddenly developing red hair or his base black eyes becoming violet in color. Seeing Tazuna stumble along the streets, Sasuke took it upon himself to guide the poor old man. How stupid, and how deceitful, but I am understanding of why you are going to do what you do. Tazuna is a grey-haired, bespectacled man with a large beard and dark eyes. Tazuna wore a sleeveless V-neck shirt with an obi, pants and a pair of sandals. He also carried a towel around his neck and wore a pointed hat on his head. Excuse me. Sasuke interrupted the man as he was walking towards the Hokage Tower. Do you need some assistance? Sasuke had a smile on his face, and inwardly this was mimicked, but in a much darker context. Your town will be mine. Comment. 8 comments. Vote. 1 left. Chapter 28, V.1C.28 First Mission 2. The next mission for Team 11 would be. Let's see here. The third Hokage was seated at a desk, looking over some documents, while also being plagued by the paperwork his position forces him to do. But everyone here was not within the Hokage's office, but instead a place where the new genins are assigned their missions, with even Team 11's previous teacher, Iruka, here as well. Team 7 had just handed in their own mission of having to track down and return Tora the cat, the pet of the Fire Daimyo's wife. Poor Naruto. What surprised Sasuke though is that Naruto seemed to have more patience than his other self, leading to him not wanting the Hokage to immediately give Team 7 a different mission. I even wasted my time distracting that old man Tazuna from getting to the Hokage's office, making sure to delay him long enough so that even if Naruto asked, he would get a separate and different mission from this one. Sasuke didn't even have to go through the effort because Naruto was just different from his counterpart. Team 11 is within the room as well, awaiting their new orders. Lord Hokage, I am sure I speak for all of Team 11 that we do not wish to do any more D-rank missions. Sasuke said, making sure to slowly start directing the conversation towards what he wants. That may be so, Sasuke, but at the start everyone moves up the ladder by gaining experience from simple missions. Iruka supplied after what Sasuke said. I request to do something more for the next mission. Sasuke requested, but Kushina forcefully held Sasuke in a mock choke hold, as her breasts pushed into the back of his head. Kushina says. Sorry about that, Lord Third, but Sasuke seems like he has gotten bored with doing the simple missions. Hinata however backed up what Sasuke said. I request to do another mission as well. Hinata humbly said, lowering her head as she requested, wanting to gather more experience out in the field herself. Requests pour into the village every day. They range from babysitting to assassinations. A wide spectrum of requests are recorded and separated into difficulty ranks accordingly. Hiruzen puffed some smoke from his pipe before continuing. You guys have just become genin, and you wish to do more than your current capabilities would suggest. Well, Lord Third, I do believe these 3 actually have the capacity to do more. Kushina let Sasuke go as she said this, speaking up for her team's current set of skills. They all display the ability to go on a C-rank mission. Is that right? The third Hokage looked towards Sakura. And what about you? Do you also want to do a higher-ranked mission? Sakura has, by now, grown accustomed to the idea of participating in a mission that could be possibly dangerous. In fact, Sakura is less courageous than Hinata in this aspect, not liking the idea of going outside of the village that has been her home since the start of her life. Shuffling a bit, Sakura finally answers after some slight hesitation. Why yes. Sakura seemed to have become determined somewhere. If I want to become an even better candidate to become Sasuke's girlfriend, or even wife, I must get stronger. Of course her motivations still seem attached to Sasuke in some fashion. Okay, fine. If you insist. I'll have you do a C-rank mission. I wasn't going to give you 3 this request, but this person in particular seems to have mentioned one of you by name already. You'll be bodyguards for someone. Hiruzen said with his smoking pipe in his mouth. You may enter. Hiruzen called out. What's this? It's just a bunch of darned squirts. Huh. And is that brat that lead me around? In came Tazuna, and he seemed upset by specifically pointing towards Sasuke. You brat made me take even longer to get to where I had to be. Taking a swig of his drink, Tazuna continued. I don't wish to be guarded by this lot. Now, sir. Tazuna. I am sure Sasuke didn't do it on purpose. The third Hokage defended Sasuke. The bridge builder regarded Sasuke and his form. I guess that he seems reliable enough. Tazuna also regarded the 3 other females. And even thought they are girls, they also seem reliable as well. Tazuna took a minute to reinvigorate himself through liquor. I'm Tazuna, veteran bridge builder. You'll be risking life and limb in guarding me to the max until I return to my land and complete my bridge. At the front gates, Team 11 was prepared to go. Right. We are going to set off then. Kushina nodded her head as she saw her team have a litter of nerves flowing through them. Sakura was in fact the most nervous, having to be away from home for a few days, at least. Hinata seemed to be holding up pretty well, but that is probably because she is already used to moving out of a familiar environment and living with Kuinai. Sasuke is similarly nonchalant, but even then, he has already been preparing to take on some enemies that get in the way. Walking off on foot, Sasuke couldn't help but lament the level of technology in this world, as while he could do a lot with seals, that doesn't mean he is able to completely replicate all of the technology from his past life through this. I mean, if I wanted a car then I would need to have the knowledge for it. How to make an engine, the process of the car's structure in combination with glass, power and everything else. I don't think I could do it in a short time frame. Sasuke thought to himself. In this universe, I won't even need a car anyway once I gain my own Rinnegan, and in fact I don't even need it right now as well. After all, Sasuke has access to his own Hiraishin technique, allowing him to instantly move from one location to the next. However, that relies on places that I have already been to, and have marked. And even then, with chakra, someone should be able to become fast enough to move at speeds faster than vehicles from my past life. The 5 people continued on their way, as some small talk was exchanged with Kushina explaining some things along the way. After all, Sasuke didn't know everything, and even from the things he knows doesn't mean he is going to tell Sakura and Hinata everything. Not when there is a chance these 2 might in the end betray him given his inclinations or plans for the future. Sooner rather than later, the group would be ambushed. Out from a puddle, that everyone seemed to notice except Tazuna, Kushina, Hinata, Sakura and Sasuke all awaited for the people in hiding to come out. Kushina easily dispatched one of the 2 ninjas that popped out of the puddle, while Sakura and Hinata helped take and guard Tazuna, while Sasuke stopped the other, where both Sasuke and Kushina knocked these 2 ninja out. Everyone all right then? Kushina asked as they captured the 2 Chunin ninja, tying them up around a tree. Mr. Tazuna. We haven't heard anything about you being targeted by other shinobi. Kushina said in an angry tone. The contents of the request was supposed to just be protection from gangs, thieves, and the like. This is a mission with a B rank or higher. This request was supposed to be for backup protection until you finished building your bridge. If our enemies are to be ninja, the mission would have been estimated without question as a B rank. Kushina seemed to be debating on something. Looking towards her 3 genin, she asks. We can leave, or we can continue. It is up to you 3 what we do now. Kushina also thought inwardly. It is pushing it, but with myself here, and their current abilities, these 3 should be able to handle it. I wish to continue. Sasuke stated, with Tazuna looking a bit happier after Kushina's scolding having soured his mood. But, I only want to continue to gather experience. There should also be some large amount of money involved, right? Once this is confirmed to be a high-ranked mission. Sasuke had to ask just in case, which again soured Tazuna's mood. Sighing, Kushina replied. Yes. And you too. I do not mind. Hinata added, while Sakura slowly nodding her head, again becoming determined in her decision to continue. Then it is settled then. Lucky you, Mr. Tazuna. Kushina said, prompting Tazuna to sigh a breath of relief. But don't think for a second that you aren't going to have to pay a larger amount of money once this is complete. Again, Tazuna was once again struck with an arrow. Sighing, Tazuna replies. All right. I will accommodate the requests each of you have to make sure to repay you for helping me. A random boat rower was rowing a boat with everyone on board, as a thick fog covered everyone's view. The bridge should be visible soon. The boat rower said. When we reach the other side of the bridge, we'll be in the land of the waves. As they continued their journey as silently as possible, Team 11 was able to come across the gigantic bridge above themselves. While rowing, Kushina threatened that she would end the mission early if Tazuna didn't properly explain the current situation properly. It appears that I have no choice but to tell you. Frankly, I'd like you to listen. Like you said, this may be beyond the scope of your mission. Actually, I am being targeted by a rather terrifying man. You may have heard of him before, as he is the shipping magnate known as Gato. He resolved to build a bridge that would connect the land of waves to the mainland to help restore its economic stability, which was against Gato's interest. He knew that Gato would try to kill him, but couldn't afford proper protection. It was because of this that Tazuna hired Team 11 under the false pretense of protecting him from bandits, where this was considered a C-rank mission, thus reducing the cost. Unlike most of his fellow citizens, Tazuna was brave enough to defy Gato's interests, although he was perfectly aware of the consequences. Gato and his riches will belong to me, through the use of Kotomatsu Kami, of course. Got to do it all legally, of course. Sasuke thought with an evil smile on his face. Then I shall be able to further spread my influence in the land of fire, as long as I can collect everything from here, that is. However, that should be no problem given Sasuke can use seals to pilfer all valuables. The team would get in the country, off the boat and continue to where Tazuna's house was, coming across a snow rabbit. Look at that. Isn't that cute? Sakura said as she went towards, wanting to pick it up, but it seemed dazed. Down. Kushina called out as a large sword came out of the woods they were in, flying just over their heads as Sakura pulled Tazuna just in time and everyone dodged. It hit the tree behind them. State your business. Kushina commanded the man whom showed up on top of the tree. Rouge Ninja of the Mist, Zabuza Momokai. You seem familiar. Zabuza stated. Never mind that. Hand the old man over. It seems like you guys will have to take a back seat. Just protect Mr. Tazuna. Kushina said, making sure they listened to her words. Let's end any conversation here. I am here for the old man. Are you sure? Sasuke's voice spoke up at this moment, his Sharingan eyes blaring to life as he gazed at Zabuza. Would you look at that? Zabuza was not expecting a child of Sasuke's age to have access to the Sharingan. Zabuza knew better than look into the eyes of a Sharingan use, and so he looked away to make sure to not be pulled into a genjutsu. But that shall not work on me. Sasuke of course could have controlled him faster, but he never needed to use his Sharingan that way. I was going to use Kotomatsu Kami on Gato, but I could also use it on this guy right here. Unless. Are you sure you want to continue being like this? A rogue ninja, whom has to work for someone like Gato. If it pays well. Really? How are you so sure that Gato will pay you and not betray you at the end? Then I shall kill him. Why not just kill him immediately and take his money? Why try to work for him? Is he not someone with very basic protection? Sasuke again persuaded, trying to avoid a confrontation. However, I wish to put the transmitter seal on Haku for ice release. So, Kotomatsu Kami. Without even looking into Zabuza's eyes, Sasuke activated his eye to change a few things here and there. If Danza had access to the eye, he would have very limited usage, but Sasuke, Being a natural-born Uchiha and having implanted it has only increased the amount of times he may use this ability. Why would Shisui himself have a limit, except the blinding of his eye from usage? No, that didn't exist for Sasuke and he could technically use it as many times as he would like. But unfortunately there is some sort of usage limit in that I shouldn't use it too often, otherwise I will have to wait for my eye to heal to use it again. Comment. 9 comments. Vote. 1 left. Chapter 29, V.1C.29 First Mission 3. The Land of Waves is a nation located on an island near the Land of Fire. It does not have a hidden village, thus relying on seeking assistance from other hidden villages like Konohigakyo. The Land of Waves has many rivers running through it and is famous for its mangroves, which are filled with all kinds of life forms. Though an isolated island, relying on shipping for commerce and trade, it was prosperous. This changed when Gato set his sights on it, breaking the people's will and monopolizing the shipping industry. You do make a good point. A slight change happened in Zabuza's demeanor before he continued. You make a good case. I shall do some more investigation of my own before proceeding to make a decision. Zabuza didn't even fight, instead choosing to give up and go looking for Gato, his current employer, to see whether or not he would take Sasuke's suggestion into account. That was easy. Kushina was shocked at how easy this encounter was, but she wasn't about to let down her guard just yet. Everyone stay on guard just in case. Come on, let's get to your home, Mr. Tazuna. All right. Tazuna replied. After this encounter, Team 11 started walking with Tazuna while also keeping their wits about them in case Zabuza had in fact changed his mind. However, throughout their journey to Tazuna's abode there was nothing the whole way but an eerie silence. So, Sakura decided to lighten up the atmosphere with a question directed towards Sasuke. By the way, Sasuke, why didn't you bring Shio along? She was referring to Sasuke's ninken he had gotten from the Inuzuka by blackmailing Kiba. While I have trained Shio adequately, I am waiting on something. Sasuke answered. And what would that something be? Sakura asked. Something you don't have to worry your pretty little head over. Sasuke replied, unintentionally flirting. Pretty. Sakura meekly said this to herself, lowering her head in embarrassment. Yes. Sasuke called me pretty. That must mean all my effort isn't for nothing. Inner Sakura was also greatly affected by the compliment. Kushina glanced at Sasuke, noticing his distinct lack of knowing in what he had just done, proceeding to slap her forehead. Sighing, she thinks inwardly. This brat is sometimes dense, and sometimes perceptive. Arriving at Tazuna's household, everyone settled in and rested for a bit after the long journey. But no one allowed their nerves to settle, as it was any moment now that Zabuza could begin attacking them. Well, all except Sasuke, who actually knows for sure that Zabuza would probably take care of the problem for them. Specifically, through Kotomatsu Kami, Sasuke had manipulated Zabuza to the extent he would discover things about Gato by himself. In doing so, he should have a moment of self-realization in that his path, while free, is also dangerous. Zabuza would not be engaging Team 11, especially since Sasuke had put up multiple ways to stop Zabuza just in case. When it comes to his sword, Sasuke didn't need it. He only wants Haku. Wait. No homo. I just want Haku's bloodline limit, ice release. Thank you for settling us in, Miss Tsunami. Kushina thanked Tazuna's daughter, long blue-colored hair, wearing a short-sleeved pink shirt with the end of the sleeves and the collar being red in color. No problem. I am the one who should be thankful instead. Tsunami replied, before proceeding to go off in another direction as she tended to her child. Okay. I guess that means we are in for some training then. Kushina said, looking over her team. Some chakra control would do good, I guess. If you are going with the leaf exercise, the walking exercise or the water walking exercise, then I suggest you come up with something else. Sasuke added, just in case Kushina mentioned these exercises to increase chakra control. Oh, of course I wasn't. Wait. All three of you already know and practiced these exercises? Kushina asked. Hinata and Sakura nodded their heads while Sasuke replied. Yes. Well, I guess before Kushina continued, however, Sasuke got up all of a sudden. Where are you going? Don't worry. I'm just using the restroom. Sasuke replied. Damn it. The Chimera seal is reaching its climax. I need to create a shadow clone to stay here and do whatever exercise they are going to practice. The woods should do it for now. Sasuke was about to go through the final transformation as his body changes completely, adapting, adding and accepting the specific genetics extracted from Kushina to enable him some of the Uzumaki's genetic mutations. Okay. Kushina replied as Sasuke went towards the bathroom, already knowing its location. Inside, he created a shadow clone. You know what to do, right? Sasuke asked his clone and the clone nodded. Okay. It should be a few hours, so until then, remain unharmed. Again, the shadow clone nodded its head before leaving first, allowing Sasuke to sneak past everyone and move out into the woods. On the other hand, Zabuza had made his way back to the hideout of where most of Gato's forces had been staying at. He explained away that he didn't attack because he needed to make sure he was not to be ambushed and things like that. Any general excuse to get the bastard Gato off of his back so that he may have some time to investigate things. Either way, that Uchiha kid made a good point. Facing off against them and potentially dying is not worth it. Zabuza was not dumb enough to just go into a fight without a plan. He wants to continue to live as well. A change in perspective granted to him by Sasuke's words. I first must discover for myself if Gato is as trustworthy as his reputation makes him out to be, which is not very trustworthy at all. Lord Zabuza. A boy, or girl, either which way a person came forward. Haku. Zabuza said the androgynous boy's name. Haku is a 15-year-old boy with an androgynous appearance and could be said to be even more beautiful than some girls. He had long black hair, pale skin and large, dark brown eyes, and a slender frame. Haku's normal shinobi outfit consisted of the standard Kirigakyo pinstriped outfit which stopped at his knees. Over this he wore a green haori with white trimmings, and around his waist a brown sash with a fringed trail wrapped around his waist twice. He also wore light brown platoon sandals with straps in the same color as his kimono and nail polish on his fingernails and toenails in matching blue-green color. When wearing this outfit, Haku's long hair was gathered in a white bun holder, while 2 locks of his hair fell loose framing his face, bound with metal hair cuffs at the ends. Haku also wore a black forehead protector with the Kirigakyo symbol upon it. Lord Zabuza. Are you really going to listen to that boy's words? Haku asked. Zabuza is a very experienced person, and knows that this word is not that great. Even more so when there are powers that allow people to lord over others. That is right. There are powers like that, with which I could become a lord of my own. Even still, money seemed to still reign supreme, for Gato had managed to climb to the top level of power here in the land of waves. We will see. Zabuza responded to Haku. We will investigate things first, and if it is unlikely this Gato will actually pay us, and even go so far as to betray us, then we shall kill him instead. However, Sasuke had much greater plans in store for the incumbent Zabuza. Yes, Lord Zabuza. Haku nodded his head, willing to listen to anything Zabuza said. Rejoining Sasuke, he had taken himself into the woods, away from the group and called forth even more shadow clones. Set up a barrier. The other time Sasuke did this, he released waves of chakra unconsciously, as he body purified and cleansed itself, further accelerating the process of reformation. Setting up a sealing barrier to keep the energy from blasting outwards and alerting everyone, Sasuke settled down into a meditative trance. This way whatever pain he experienced would be reduced as much as possible, leaving his mind to disconnect from his body as the process thoroughly transforms his cells. Wait a minute. I could just go and talk to the 9 tails. This way my mind should be completely disconnected from the pain, and I am not necessarily wasting any time. Sasuke decided to do just that, submerging himself and going into the seal. Walking down, the environment or view of Sasuke's chakra network looked like a flowing river. Sasuke's chakra took on the form of water or liquid and flowed throughout his body, and due to the chimera seal going through the final stage, it was thrashing about violently. Interesting. Sasuke continued to walk through unimpeded, despite the violent ravaging of his insides. Instead of a network of pipes, Sasuke's body seemed much more peaceful. Or calm by some measure, where the water was perfectly kept contained within the borders of a save-like structure. It was also not dark, his chakra lighting up the pathway, leading him down towards the Kyuubi at the center of his network. It seems all the chaos here has either passed, or this is the safest spot in my body during the process. Growling, Kurama, the nine-tailed fox roars. What is going on here, boy? Nothing much. Sasuke replied as he sat down calmly, floating above the lake beneath him. Nothing much. What are you doing to your body, boy? This seems dangerous. The Kyuubi had no way to tell what was going on, even after having experienced this process a few times before as well. Whatever it is you're doing, stop it right now. And stop doing it for the foreseeable future. So it has affected you then. You Uchiha are annoying. Whatever it is disturbing my slumber. I apologize, but I will be unable to do so. For the foreseeable future, I will continue to do things like this. It won't harm you, don't worry. Also, you should thank me for helping you gain the other half of your chakra back. Sasuke dropped the bomb on the Kyuubi. That was you. No thanks, kid, but I am still trapped within another person, now it just isn't too. Of course the Kyuubi would still feeling anger about that. Hey. I'm not the one who sealed you in me in the first place. Sasuke replied. That may be so, but you are still my jailer. That is unless you take off the seal and release me, and only then may I look at you differently from the rest of the pathetic human race. Even if you are a despicable Uchiha. The Kyuubi's large eye seemed to look at Sasuke with disdain, the same with its voice leaking disdain as well. Something else I do not like is your style. You remind me too much of that despicable Madara Uchiha with that hairstyle. Change it. The Kyuubi disliked Sasuke's current appearance, but there was nothing he could do about it. I am not Madara Uchiha. Sasuke replied. However, he does have some level of style. So of course I would copy him a little in that department. The Kyuubi seemed disinclined to say any more, its boredom seemingly satiated, and now it was unwilling to talk more with Sasuke. Okay then. Maybe some other time. Sasuke shut his eyes and stayed as he awaited for the progress for the transformation to be complete. It would only be a few hours later that he would awaken to his body in the real world, looking around to see that his shadow clones had kept the sealing barrier perfect throughout the entire time. Good job. The clones deactivated the barrier and dispelled themselves, returning many memories to Sasuke of boring nothingness. Uneventfulness is sometimes better than eventfulness. Getting up, Sasuke started to feel around his body. He had not experienced any immediate increase to his chakra capacity, but pulling out a kunai, Sasuke cut himself and activated the Sharingan, immediately seeing the difference from before. With the Kyuubi's chakra running through him, it healed him within the time range of 10 seconds, and now with adding the Uzumaki genes, Sasuke's regeneration for small wounds had reached the point of recuperating within a few seconds. To be exact, 3 seconds. Sasuke nodded his head. Time to head back. The sun had just about set, and everyone was most likely going to go to sleep, in preparation for what tomorrow is going to bring. Zabuza better be quick, otherwise I am going to have to take things into my own hands. Sasuke didn't Zabuza to do anything, but had things in place, only if he decided to turn on any of the members of Team 11. Creators' thoughts. Link_ID link_ID. Rip Technoblade. Comment. 8 comments. Vote. 1 left. Chapter 30, V.1C.30 Great Sasuke Bridge. The land of waves was impoverished to the point of people in the streets begging for food. Thievery is rampant, and most of all, crime was so high that any organization like the police had become completely defunct. Especially since Gato is in actuality a criminal overlord. After completing their training, Team 11 the next morning headed out to protect Tazuna, and in their protection, Team 11 got a greater look into the conditions of everyone living here within the land of the waves. Everyone was trying their damn hardest to survive, barely living day by day. Even calling this living is not right, and it is more accurate to call this survival. Sasuke thought to himself, as Hinata and Sakura finally got to see something outside of their rather cushy lifestyle in the village. Neither Hinata or Sakura wanted for anything, having all of their needs taken care of. However, out here it was different. This is how it's been ever since Gato has shown up. Tazuna spoke up as they walked the streets, passing by the decaying and rotting of this society. Here, all of the adults have turned into cowards. Sakura had given some food to a child that asked, and seeing this she easily gave in. Hinata, seeing this, didn't know what to say or even do for that matter, as the problems here run deeper due to Gato's presence. Sasuke also thought on Tazuna's words here. While I admit it is okay to be a coward, I must say in this situation it is do or die. Obviously they could also try and escape this place, but if there is no other option left, then they would have to choose the option that isn't cowardly. Sasuke knew not to judge too quickly about what these people were willing to do to survive. So that is why the bridge is necessary. It's a symbol of bravery in order to restore their spirit, so they don't keep running away. For the people of this land who have set their minds on remaining passive. Tazuna added grimly, his face very serious. If we can just complete that bridge, this town will return to how it once was, and everyone will come back. That is if the bridge would be able to actually stabilize your economy and restore things to normal. Crime will still be rampant without proper leadership as well. Sasuke didn't mean to criticize the old man's thinking, as it would do exactly what he said, but Sasuke was unsure if it would really fix all of their problems. At this point they would need something more than just one bridge. During dinner that very same night, Sakura asked about a torn picture that Inri, Tazuna's grandson, had been looking at. Tazuna explains that the man in the missing portion of the picture was Kaiser, Inri's father, whom Inri had idolized and thought of as his biological parent, though Kaiser had adopted him. One day, years prior, a flood had threatened to destroy the village, and Kaiser had single-handedly managed to close the floodgates, earning him the title of hero amongst the villagers. Once Gato came to the country, however, Kaiser's heroic deeds angered Gato, and therefore Gato had him executed in front of the villagers, including Inri. From that day forth, the villagers lost hope, and Inri was crushed, disbelieving the possible existence of a hero. Let's see then. Were Sasuke's thoughts that night before going to sleep. Zabuza had everything he needed. Zabuza was a tall and noticeably muscular man with light grayish skin, short spiky black hair, dark brown eyes, and small eyebrows. He was normally seen wearing bandages like a mask over the bottom half of his face. Under his mask, he had a relatively narrow jawline and jagged teeth, a trait he shared with his fellow swordsman. He wore his forehead protector sideways on his head, and prior to his defection from Kirigakyo, donned the village's Anbu uniform and flak jacket. After his defection, Zabuza was shirtless, with his chest only covered by a belt to which he attached his Kubakiri bocho, wearing baggy pants with the striped pattern typical of Kirigakyo and mimetic wrist warmers extending up to his elbows, with matching leg warmers. Now however, he decided to wear a sleeveless black shirt and matching pants, complete with a waist guard, and yet again, Kirigakyo's striped wrist and leg warmers. Other swordsmen of his generation wore attire identical to this, implying that they might be clothes related to the group. While donning this attire, much like his fellow swordsmen, he had bandages loosely tied around his neck like a scarf. I am convinced that Gato will not pay me. I will kill him. This isn't even taking into account that Zabuza had been starting to have this itching feeling. A desire born inside of him ever since talking with that Uchiha kid to not only kill Gato, but also take over his place and rule over this land. I will restore this place properly. Zabuza never had any other desire or ambition, but it was from Sasuke's words and his subsequent investigation that only strengthened these thoughts. I also mustn't let Haku continue down this path, where loath as I am to admit, will probably die someday, leaving him on his own. The relationship shared between Zabuza and Haku was like that of a parent and child, so obviously Zabuza was starting to see things differently. Zabuza was once seen as charismatic and inspiring, as he had previously dreamed of a society with shinobi as the ruling class, a dream which motivated his attempted coup against the fourth Mitsukage whom he disagreed with. However, he would become bitter and cynical after the coup ended in failure, and over time made him a ruthless hitman willing to be hired out by anyone corrupt. No longer will I do this. Instead, I shall start here in trying to make things go back to the way they were. Zabuza was absolutely burning with passion again. I shall meet up with those Konoha shinobi and alliance with them to take down this corrupt government. Zabuza had decided. Haku. I have decided. Yes, Lord Zabuza. Haku appeared beside him, fully prepared for what Zabuza wanted to do. We are to. Another day, another dollar. Or is it Rio now? Team 11 were on the bridge and saw two people appear in front of them, Tazuna being surrounded as to protect him. Zabuza Momokai, and a companion. Kushina was the one to speak, considering she is meant to be the leader here. I have come to make a deal. Zabuza said. I am no longer going to work for Gato, and instead I have a better idea. I wish to help this town by becoming the leader myself. Zabuza requested, shocking Team 11 not expecting this turnaround. How do we know you are not going to be another tyrant? If not worse than Gato. It was Tazuna now that called out, unsure about how to feel about Zabuza's decision. I cannot promise anything. That would be immature of me. However, I can say is that with myself around, this village should be protected from outside threats easy. Also the crime rate should go down at a quicker pace, let alone the idea of being able to train up a suitable force here so that they may protect their homes better from said tyrants like Gato. Zabuza explained quite logically all of the benefits, with hardly any other disadvantage other than trust issues with Zabuza and whether or not he will fulfill his terms. Sasuke could sense the approach of multiple opponents coming their way. It seems like what Zabuza has said is true. There are multiple enemy ninja and hired help. Sasuke could tell as their chakra amounts were above that of an average citizen. Formations. Kushina called, as she speed forward. Mr. Tazuna, I suggest you make your decision here and now. I would like the help, as it would make this process easier. Tazuna didn't hesitate and accepted. I don't know anything about this ninja business, but on the basis of an enemy is a friend, we will accept your help. The only way you are to be accepted as our new leader would be with the approval of everyone who lives here. As long as you can deal with an answer that is not to your liking, the opportunity shall be given to you. Of course. Zabuza laughed, feeling uplifted for some reason. Right. Demon of the Hidden Mist, why don't you help me out here then? Kushina called, and the two of them got to work on fighting off multiple of the hired help, with other low-level ninja coming into the fray. I will stay here with Tazuna and protect him. Why don't you two go help up over there? Sasuke directed Hinata and Sakura to start getting some battle experience. If possible, I want the both of you to kill them, but if you are uncomfortable with that, then you may not. Sasuke's eyes flashed with a cruel light when he said this, and the two girls became nervous about having to kill people. Oh okay. I will try my hardest. Hinata replied, dashing forward, but she would ultimately be the one to not really kill anyone, instead just knocking them out. Why yes. Sakura headed off as well, squeamish but wanting to impress Sasuke, and start to improve herself as well, felt how easy it was to kill. At first she was not intending to kill anyone, holding back as much as she could without putting herself in danger, but what Sasuke said is true. It is harder to knock someone out rather than outright kill them. Sakura held back the burning sensation in her throat and continued to the best of her abilities in only incapacitating her enemies. Hinata had it easy due to the Bakugan and the Gentle Fist, enabling her the ability to knock them out. Sighing, Sasuke would have to come up with some other way to get Hinata used to killing, as with Sakura she had already accidentally killed a few opponents that weren't strong enough. Whatever. Combat in the heat of the moment is good enough for now. They don't need to kill anyone now. After a while, everything was over and the battle was done, where Sakura, Hinata, Kushina, Zabuza, and Haku had some minor injuries. Cuts and bruises, given the sheer amount of people that seemed to be under Gato's control. Of course Sasuke had used shadow clones to help defend Hinata and Sakura in case they got themselves into too dangerous of situations. Is it over? Hinata asked, gazing upon the carnage brought upon by Zabuza and Kushina. The sea below is kind of painted red, blood having polluted the water below, alongside bodies floating and sinking. Yes. Kushina replied. A laughing could be heard as Gato made himself known, flanked by several individuals. I knew that you would betray me. Get that man and finish off those pesky Konoha ninja. Gato exclaimed, but in his power he didn't realize that he was done for. Zabuza immediately dispatched of those people and captured Gato. Unharmed me. Gato exclaimed. Everything had accumulated to this moment, upon which the tyrant had been captured. For now Gato would be kept alive, his assets seized and his henchmen forced to leave this island, while the people band together to finally complete the bridge. In the end, it was not the bridge itself that had brought the people together. Instead of Inari being inspired by Naruto and thus leading to inspiring the townspeople, Sasuke had manipulated people via genjutsu to instill a sense of wanting freedom from the oppression. This way the people came of their own volition, but are surprised to discover their help was not needed. Only in the construction of the bridge would they continue to carry out. Good job. Kushina smiled as she rubbed her hands on both Hinata and Sakura's heads before putting her thumb upwards and also telling Sasuke he had done good as well. Gato's men, meanwhile, were now without a paycheck, and decided to loot the town as their payment for coming. As many as there were any left, where Zabuza took charge and lead the town to capture the rest of the criminals. The mercenaries had been captured, but that didn't mean everything was just over yet, as Team 11 had to wait out for the bridge to finally be completed. Sasuke also finally got his chance to take away the chimera mark on Kushina, allowing him the ability to place it on another person. That person being Haku. Hello. Sasuke had approached Haku as the town was nearing its completion of the bridge, with many of the people actually accepting Zabuza as their new leader. Greetings, young ninja. Haku replied, but was a bit estranged that Sasuke was actually taller than himself. Haku was around 155 centimeters, and he is 15 years old, in comparison to Sasuke that is 12 years old and had a height of 165 centimeters. Stretching out his hand, Sasuke activated his Sharingan. Nice to meet you. I hope to meet you again. Haku, compelled to shake his hand, did, and didn't notice a small pattern imprint onto his hand before disappearing. Success. After the process is complete, the mark will disappear within a few days. Which is no problem, considering it will be able yet till I meet another bloodline limit user. Right. Sasuke. Come over here. Tazuna wants to speak with you. Sakura called Sasuke over, and Sasuke said his goodbye to Haku. Strange. Haku thought to himself about his encounter with Sasuke. Yes. Sasuke questioned, and Tazuna began a speech about how they have helped the village, and him wanting to fulfill his promise of helping each team member have a request filled. Kushina, Hinata and Sakura didn't want anything, thus leaving Sasuke as the final person to have his say. Well. If you really will, how about you call the bridge, after it has been completed, the Great Sasuke Bridge? Sasuke supplied, leaving Team 11 to deadpan at the request as Sasuke had a smile on his face and Tazuna to have a twitching brow. That is doable.